My name is Dana Sullivan. I'm 34 years old, and I've spent most of my adult life being the quiet provider in my family, the one who makes things work behind the scenes. I work as a bank employee in Portland, Oregon. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, reliable, like me. And for a long time, that's how I thought love worked. You give, they take, and everyone stays comfortable. But this is the story of how I learned that comfort can sometimes hide cruelty. It started with a promise, a simple one, that there would be no gifts this Christmas. Soft sigh. If you enjoy real-life stories like mine, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. The setup, it was early December, and the rain hadn't stopped in days. My office windows fogged every morning, the smell of coffee and printer ink filling the air. Everywhere around me, people talked about Christmas. Travel plans, gifts, secret Santas. I smiled and nodded, even though the holidays had always been complicated for me. My parents, David and Helly, weren't bad people. They just had their own version of love, one that often revolved around my younger sister, Jasmine. Jasmine, 29, social media consultant, bright, beautiful, always with perfect nails and a new phone. She was the star, and I was the scaffolding holding up the stage she stood on. When I was a kid, Mom used to say, "You're our responsible one, Dana. You'll make sure everything's okay." And I did. When Dad's car broke down, I lent him the money. When Mom's credit card got maxed out, I paid it off. When Jasmine couldn't cover rent after quitting her job to build her brand, I wired her 2 months' worth of rent from my savings. At first, it felt good, being needed. But over time, help became habit. Bills got redirected to my account. Subscriptions were added under my name. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, even their cell phone plans. Every month I watched my paycheck shrink, not from my own expenses, but from theirs. I told myself it was family. That's what family does. We take care of each other. But deep down, I knew it wasn't equal. I gave. They expected. The call that started it, it was the first week of December when Mom called. Her voice was warm, light, and, as always, slightly performative. "Dana, sweetheart, let's keep it simple this year," she said. "No gifts. We all have enough, don't we?" I remember the way my heart lifted. "Really? That sounds great, actually." She laughed softly. "Yes, just family time. No pressure, no shopping, no stress. Agreed?" "Agreed," I said, smiling into my coffee. When I hung up, I felt relieved. Maybe this Christmas would finally be different. No competition, no measuring affection through price tags. Just us. I texted Jasmine, "Hey, heard we're doing no gifts this year. Sounds peaceful for once, huh?" She replied with a heart emoji and a totally family vibes only. For a brief moment, I believed her. Small preparations. The weeks passed quickly. Between end-of-year reports and long commutes through the rain, I tried to find small joys. I baked sugar cookies in my tiny kitchen, their uneven edges making me smile. I wrapped them in little boxes with twine. Nothing fancy, just a small gesture. This year, I told myself I'd bring something homemade, not store-bought. Something that came from the heart. I spent a Saturday night watching snow-themed movies, the kind where families fix everything in 2 hours with a song and a hug. Those movies always made me cry. Not because of the happy endings, but because I'd stopped believing mine could ever look like that. Still, I wanted to try. I wanted to believe that this year, maybe things would finally feel equal. The family pattern. Growing up, Jasmine had always been the center of gravity in our house. When she got a C in math, Mom blamed the teacher. When I got an A, Mom said, "Well, of course. You did. You're the responsible one." When Jasmine wanted new shoes, Dad said, "She's young. Let her enjoy life." When I needed a new laptop for college, he said, "Can't you make do a bit longer?" That's how the pattern started. Jasmine's joy was always urgent. My needs were always optional. By the time I turned 30, I'd become their unofficial treasurer. They trusted me with passwords, bills, even emergencies. "Dana, can you check if our internet bill went through?" "Dana, the electric company's being weird. Can you call them?" "Dana, can you just add your card and we'll pay you back?" They rarely did. Still, I rationalized it. Dad was getting older. Mom was tired. Jasmine was still figuring things out. I had a good job. I could handle it. But sometimes, when I lay awake at night, I'd stare at my ceiling fan spinning slowly and wonder, if I stopped paying, would they even notice me beyond the disruption? Christmas Eve, the night of the gathering, the air outside was sharp and cold. I wore my old navy coat, the one with the loose button, and carried a tray of my homemade cookies. My parents' house smelled like cinnamon and pine when I walked in. "Dana, you're here!" Mom said, her voice cheerful but distracted. She was adjusting ornaments on the tree. Dad was in the kitchen, sipping coffee from his favorite mug, the one that said "World's Best Dad" in faded blue letters. Jasmine's laughter echoed from the living room, bright and confident. She looked stunning, of course. Perfect curls, new boots, her nails glittering red and gold. Her husband, Corey, stood beside her, phone in hand, filming as she posed next to the tree. "Smile, babe," he said. She did, flipping her hair for the camera. "Hey, Dana," she called out when she noticed me. "You made cookies again? You're so domestic." The words were sweet on the surface, but there was always that edge, that effortless condescension that only siblings could perfect. "Yeah," I said, setting the tray on the counter. "Thought it'd be nice to have something homemade." "Cute," she said, already turning back to the camera. I smiled tightly and joined Mom by the fireplace. The air smelled like pine and burnt sugar from the candles. Dad turned on the old holiday playlist, the same songs we'd heard every year since I was a kid. Everything looked perfect. Everything felt hollow. The moment, everything shifted. Around 8 p.m., Dad clinked his mug against his spoon. "All right, everyone," he said. "I think it's time for our little exchange." I blinked. "Exchange?" Mom smiled. "Just a few small things, honey." We couldn't resist. You know your dad. My stomach tightened. "But we agreed no gifts this year." Jasmine giggled, waving a glittery box. "Oh, relax, Dana. It's just for fun." The first box she opened was a brand new iPhone 15 Pro. The next, a $5,000 designer handbag, sleek black leather with gold accents. Then a third, a jewelry set so bright it seemed to catch every light in the room. Mom clapped, eyes glimmering. "Our girl deserves to shine." Dad nodded proudly. "She's worked so hard this year." My heart sank. Worked hard? Jasmine had posted 3 sponsored videos this month. I'd worked 60-hour weeks closing out year-end reports at the bank, but I didn't say anything. I just stood there, hands trembling slightly as Jasmine laughed and posed for photos, holding each gift up like a trophy. "Dana," Mom said, noticing my silence. "Don't be weird about it. You know we love you too." I forced a smile. "Of course." Inside, something small and fragile cracked. I'd spent years paying for their bills, their comfort, their peace. And this was my reward, being invisible. Again, quiet realization. I looked down at my tray of cookies, still untouched. Their edges were uneven, imperfect, just like me. But they were real. They were made with time, patience, care, things no amount of money could buy. I thought about every bill I'd quietly covered, every late-night call from Mom asking for just one more favor, every time I'd said yes when I wanted to say no. And in that living room, surrounded by glittering paper and laughter that didn't include me, I realized something simple but profound. Love shouldn't feel like debt. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I simply stood, slipped on my coat, and told them I had an early shift the next morning. Mom barely looked up. Dad nodded absently. Jasmine was still filming. I walked out into the cold, my boots crunching against the snow. The wind stung my cheeks, but it felt cleaner out there. Honest. As I reached my car, I glanced back at the glowing windows. Inside, they looked so happy, and for the first time I realized their happiness had always come at my expense. When I got home that night, I didn't even take off my coat. I stood in the dim light of my living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the faint buzz of my phone in my pocket. My hands were still trembling, not from cold, but from the kind of quiet rage that doesn't make noise, just sinks deeper until it fills you. I pulled out my phone. The family group chat was already lighting up. Jasmine had posted a photo, her new handbag perfectly lit by the glow of the Christmas tree. The caption read, "Feeling so blessed. Best family ever." The comments were rolling in from her followers, friends, cousins, even Mom's bridge club ladies. "You deserve it, Queen. So happy for you, Jess. Your parents are the sweetest." I stared at that post until the screen dimmed. Not one message from them to me, not even a thanks for coming. The silence in my apartment pressed in. I sank into the couch and opened my laptop. My cursor hovered over the Spotify family plan. 6 names glowed under my account. Mine, Jasmine's, Mom's, Dad's, even Corey's. My card on file. Every month, the charge hit my account like clockwork. My breath came shallow. I clicked remove member, one by one. Jasmine, Corey, Mom, Dad. A quiet satisfaction spread through my chest. Then Hulu, gone. Amazon Prime, gone. My hands moved faster now, trembling but certain. When I got to the shared credit card, my pulse raced. I'd added them years ago. For emergencies, but the emergencies never stopped. A memory flickered. Dad's voice from last spring. Calm but firm. Just keep the card active, Dana. We'll handle it. They never did. I called the bank. Hi, I said, voice steady. I need to remove authorized users from my account. The representative asked for names. I listed them one by one. All right, she said after typing. It's done. Thank you. When I hung up, I felt a strange stillness, like I'd closed a door that had been swinging open for years. It wasn't revenge. It was relief. The next morning, my phone started buzzing at 6:45 a.m., just mine first. Hey, did Spotify log me out? Fix it. Then, why's Hulu asking for a password reset? Dana, seriously, what did you do? I ignored her. Made coffee instead. By 7:30, Mom chimed in. Sweetheart, something's wrong with the subscriptions. I can't get my shows. Can you check? Dad followed. Credit card got declined at the gas station. Is the bank having issues? I stared at the screen, watching their panic unfold like a play I'd already seen too many times. Only this time, I wasn't the one running to fix the set pieces. Jasmine texted again, furious now. You're unbelievable. Are you seriously doing this on Christmas weekend? Then she posted on Instagram. A selfie pouting. Caption, some people can't handle success. Imagine cutting your family off during the holidays. It's toxic energy. Stay positive. I laughed. A quiet, almost disbelieving sound. It wasn't humor, it was clarity. For years, she'd controlled the narrative, and my silence had been her permission. Not anymore. By 9 a.m., our mom called, her voice sharp and tight, like she'd rehearsed her lines. Dana, what on earth are you thinking? You embarrassed us. Your sister is crying. I didn't do anything wrong, I said calmly. I just stopped paying for things that aren't mine. You're punishing us, she snapped. No, I said softly. I'm protecting myself. There was a long pause. Then Dad's voice cut in from the background. Put it back, Dana. We need those accounts. You can make your own, I said. His tone hardened. Don't be dramatic. Something in me shifted. For the first time, their disapproval didn't sink in. It just slid off. I'm not being dramatic, I said. I'm being done. Mom gasped like I'd cursed. After everything we've done for you. I hung up. The phone buzzed again almost immediately, but I didn't answer. I sat there letting the silence settle. It was the first peace I'd felt in years. At 10:30, someone knocked on my door. Hard. My stomach flipped. I opened it to find 2 police officers on my porch. Their faces were neutral, polite. Miss Sullivan? Yes? We received a call about a domestic disturbance involving shared financial accounts. Of course. Mom, I sighed, stepping aside. There's no disturbance. Just boundaries. They asked a few questions, wrote down my answers. Everything was in my name. My accounts, my payments, my card. They nodded. Sounds like a civil matter, one said kindly. You're within your rights. I thanked them. As they turned to leave, I saw Mom's car at the end of the street, parked crookedly, her figure tense in the driver's seat. She didn't come up. She didn't have to. I knew exactly what she'd say if she did. You've gone too far, Dana. But maybe for once, I'd finally gone far enough. Inside, I sat on the couch and stared at the window. Outside, the snow had started again, soft and silent. My phone buzzed once more. A text from Jasmine. Hope you're happy. You ruined everything. I typed, No, Jess. I just stopped letting you ruin me. Then I deleted it. Some truths don't need to be sent. I turned off my phone. The quiet was sharp at first, almost uncomfortable. But then it settled into something peaceful. I made tea, curled up with a blanket, and opened the budget spreadsheet I'd made years ago but never filled out for myself. This time, the numbers were mine: rent, groceries, savings, art supplies. I added a new line. Oregon coast trip, $500. And another, online art course, $200. Every cell I filled was a piece of freedom. Later that afternoon, the doorbell rang again. I froze, half expecting my parents. But it was Mara, a friend from work. She held 2 cups of coffee and a knowing smile. Emergency caffeine delivery, she said. You okay? I hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, Actually, yeah, we sat at my small dining table, the soft hum of the heater filling the pauses. I told her what happened, everything. The party, the gifts, the accounts. She listened, quiet and focused, then said, "You did the right thing. They'll spin it how they want, but boundaries don't make you cruel. They make you free." Her words hit something deep. I hadn't realized how badly I needed someone to say that. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't feel guilt. I felt empty, but in the best way. Like I'd finally cleaned out a space I didn't know was cluttered. The next morning, I opened my phone to dozens of missed calls. Mom, Dad, Jasmine, even Corey. I scrolled through the notifications until one caught my eye. An email from my bank. Subject: change in account activity. New users removed. The confirmation of my actions. Final, irreversible. I smiled faintly, sipping my coffee. The world outside was gray and still, but inside I felt something stirring. Something like peace. Their silence would come next. Then their anger. Then maybe someday understanding. But even if it never came, I'd be okay. Because for the first time, the only person depending on me was me. The next few days were a blur of cold mornings and muted phone notifications. The snow hadn't melted yet. It covered the streets like a blanket that refused to let anything new grow. Every time I looked out my window, I saw that same endless white, quiet, still, and honest. On the third morning, my phone buzzed again, but not with family messages this time. It was a text from Clara, my coworker at the bank. "Hey, saw something about your sister online. You okay?" I frowned, half awake. Then I opened Instagram. Jasmine's latest post was gone. Deleted. Her grid looked emptier than usual. The captions that once screamed grind, glow, gratitude were replaced with vague quotes about betrayal and finding your circle. But the comments told the real story. Wait, didn't you lose that brand deal? What happened to the collab? Why'd your last video get pulled? She'd always built her world on illusion. Perfect lighting, perfect captions, perfect everything. But without the tools she used through my accounts, the editing software, the streaming subscriptions, the apps I paid for, her empire was cracking. A small part of me felt satisfaction, but mostly, I felt numb. By noon, I got another text, this time from Mom. "You're happy now, aren't you? You ruined her work." I didn't answer. That afternoon, while I was filing paperwork at my desk, a call came through from an unknown number. I answered instinctively. "Dana Sullivan?" a man's voice asked. "Yes? This is Tommy from Horizon Credit. Your father listed you as a co-signer on an account. He's behind on payments." My stomach dropped. "Wait, what account?" "A small business loan from 2 years ago," he said. "The auto repair one?" I gripped the receiver tighter. "Dad's garage project? He told me he needed my signature just to verify income. Never said I'd be liable. I'm not responsible for that loan," I said, my voice shaking. "Your name is on the agreement," the man said gently. "You may want to review it." I hung up, my hands trembling. The betrayal stung deeper than I expected. That night, I pulled out my old file box, the one where I kept receipts, tax documents, everything. And there it was, a form from 2 years ago with my neat signature on the bottom line. Co-signer Dana Sullivan. I sat there for a long time, staring at that line. My name, my trust, used without honesty. The anger came slowly this time, heavy and steady, like a tide. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house. The driveway was lined with dirty snow and the faint marks of tire tracks. Their Christmas wreath still hung on the door, glittering, a little wilted. When Mom opened the door, her eyes widened. Surprise first, then defensiveness. "Well," she said tightly, "you finally decided to show up. Can we talk?" I asked. Dad was at the kitchen table, reading the paper like nothing was wrong. Jasmine wasn't there. I could still smell her perfume faintly on the couch cushions, that sugary scent that clung to everything. I took a breath. "Dad, did you put my name on a business loan?" He looked up, frowning. "Oh, that. Don't overreact. It was just paperwork." "It's not just paperwork," I said. "I'm being contacted by the lender. You lied to me." Mom crossed her arms. "Don't talk to your father like that. He needed help." "I've always helped," I said quietly. "But you crossed the line. Both of you." Dad set the paper down. "You've been ungrateful lately, Dana. You're acting like money is more important than family." I let out a small, disbelieving laugh. You took out a loan in my name without telling me. You let Jasmine drain my credit for years. And you're calling me ungrateful? Mom's face tightened. You've always been dramatic. Jasmine never complains like this. Jasmine never had to, I said, because I fixed everything before it broke. For a moment, nobody spoke. The only sound was the ticking of the kitchen clock. Then Mom said, quieter, We didn't mean harm, Dana. You just have things together. We knew you could handle it. That's not love, Mom. That's convenience. Dad's jaw tightened. You've changed. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just stopped pretending. I turned to leave. Mom reached out, but I stepped back. Dana, please. You're punishing us for loving differently. I shook my head. No, I'm teaching you what love isn't. Outside, the air hit cold and sharp against my face. I sat in the car for a long time, hands on the steering wheel, heart pounding. For years, I'd craved their approval, that nod, that we're proud of you. But all I'd ever gotten was their expectation. That day, I stopped craving. 2 days later, Jasmine called. I didn't pick up at first, but she kept calling. 5 times, then 6. Finally, I answered. Her voice came through shaky, thinner than usual. Dana, I'm in trouble. I said nothing. The brand deal with Eterna Beauty dropped me, she said. They said my engagement rate tanked. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it, but she didn't want sympathy. She wanted rescue. You can help me, right? Just until I figure things out. Maybe you could reopen the card. I'll pay you back this time. The same sentence I'd heard 100 times. I closed my eyes, inhaled slowly, and said, No, Jasmine. She went silent. Then small and incredulous. You're really going to watch me fall apart? I'm not watching you fall apart, I said. I'm letting you grow up. She hung up. That night, she posted another cryptic story. A black screen, white text. You think you know people until they turn on you. I didn't react. I didn't even look twice. Meanwhile, the ripple effects began to reach Mom and Dad. Without my automatic payments, their utilities started sending late notices. The internet was cut off for 2 days. A neighbor messaged me on Facebook. Your parents are having some trouble. They looked pretty stressed. I thanked her, but I didn't intervene. I imagined Mom pacing the kitchen, muttering about ungrateful children. I imagined Dad sitting in silence, wondering why his card wasn't working. But I also imagined them learning, maybe for the first time, what responsibility feels like when no one cleans up after you. By the end of that week, my world had become small and quiet. My phone barely rang. My apartment was clean. My evenings belonged to me. I'd started sketching again, something I hadn't done since college. The pages filled with rough drawings of places I'd never been. Coastlines, mountains, faces half lit in fading light. It wasn't escape. It was expression. One night, while shading the corner of a drawing, I realized something strange. I didn't miss them. Not the calls, not the chaos, not even the approval. For the first time, I wasn't living for their version of family. I was living for mine. 2 weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail, handwriting I knew instantly. Mom's inside was a short note. Dana, we didn't mean to hurt you, but you've made things very hard for us. Your father's disappointed. Jasmine's miserable. Please, can't you just come home and talk? Love, Mom. The word love was underlined twice. I stared at it for a long time. I could hear her voice in my head, full of guilt, full of performance. And for the first time, I didn't feel like answering. I folded the note neatly, placed it in a drawer, and closed it. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. A week later, Mara stopped by again, dropping off coffee and muffins. She noticed the unopened note on my counter. You're not going to reply? She asked. I shook my head. She'll keep trying, Mara said softly. I know, I said. But this time, she'll have to do it without a safety net, Mara smiled. That's growth, Dana. The days stretched quietly into January. I went to work, came home, cooked dinner for one. Sometimes the silence felt lonely, but more often, it felt clean. Like standing in a room where all the noise had finally been turned off. Jasmine's social media presence kept shrinking. The brand stopped tagging her. The comments grew harsher, then stopped altogether. Eventually, she switched her profile to private. Mom and Dad didn't call anymore. I heard through the grapevine that they'd hired a financial advisor from their church to help manage their bills. I hoped it worked out. I really did. Because deep down, despite everything, I still loved them. I just couldn't keep losing myself to prove it. That winter, I signed up for the art course I'd written in my budget spreadsheet. The first assignment was simple. Draw something that represents your new beginning. I drew a window. Open, snow outside, melting into early spring light. On the windowsill sat a single mug of coffee, steaming quietly. Underneath it, I wrote a line. Freedom doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's just a quiet morning without guilt. By March, the snow had melted into gray slush that clung to the curbs, and the city felt new again, like it was slowly remembering how to breathe. My apartment was cleaner now, brighter. The air didn't carry tension anymore. I'd replaced the flickering kitchen bulb, rearranged my living room, even bought a small plant that somehow survived my uneven watering schedule. It was strange how quiet life could be when no one was demanding anything from you. The silence that once felt empty had become comforting, almost sacred. I spent my evenings sketching again, landscapes this time. My art instructor, a soft-spoken woman named Eleanor, always said, "Draw what peace looks like to you." I'd smile and think, it looks like this. A small apartment, a stable mind, a life that belonged only to me. One Saturday morning, as I sipped my coffee by the window, I opened my budgeting spreadsheet. The columns were neat, balanced, clean. No red cells, no surprise deductions. I'd even managed to put $200 into savings. It was the kind of calm I'd chased for years, but it never came. Not until I stopped carrying everyone else's chaos. 2 months after Christmas, I ran into Jasmine for the first time. It happened in the grocery store. She was standing in the produce aisle, phone in one hand, a basket of discounted fruit in the other. For a second, I almost turned away, but she spotted me first. "Dana?" Her voice was smaller than I remembered. I froze. "Hey!" There was a long pause. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and for once, she wasn't perfectly styled. No camera, no performance, just her. "You look good," she said. "So do you." I lied gently. Her eyes darted to the floor. "Things have been hard." The collab stopped. "And Corey?" He left. I blinked. "I'm sorry," she shrugged, her voice brittle. "Guess I made it easy for him. He liked the money more than me." There it was, the first crack of honesty I'd ever heard from her. She took a breath, her gaze flicking to mine. "Mom says you hate us." "I don't," I said quietly. "I just stopped letting you use me." Jasmine winced, but she didn't argue. She looked older, tired. For the first time, she seemed like someone who had to face herself without filters. "Dad's trying to sell the garage," she said after a moment. "They're struggling." I nodded slowly. "I figured. Can you help them?" she asked, her tone hesitant but hopeful. I hesitated. The old reflex, the one that used to pull me back into their orbit, stirred faintly, but it didn't take hold. "I think they can help themselves," I said gently. "They need to." Jasmine looked at me for a long time, then sighed. "You've changed." "I had to," I said. "You will too." She nodded, and for a moment there was no resentment in her face, just quiet acceptance. We said goodbye in the parking lot. She drove away in an older car, something secondhand, and I realized that was probably the first thing she'd ever had to buy with her own money. That night, I got an email. The subject line read, "From Mom." I hovered over it for nearly a minute before clicking. "Dana, I know we've hurt you. I've been thinking about everything since Christmas. I don't recognize the way I spoke to you that day. I was angry and scared. We relied on you too much. I see that now. Your father feels ashamed. Jasmine told me she saw you at the store. She said you seemed peaceful. I hope that means you're happy. We're trying to manage things ourselves. It's hard, but we're learning. I want you to know we love you. Truly. Love, Mom." I read it twice. My eyes burned, not from sadness, but from the weight of years finally being acknowledged. I didn't reply right away. I didn't need to. Some messages didn't need an instant answer. They just needed to exist. Spring crept in quietly. I took my first weekend trip to the Oregon coast. Just me, my sketchbook, and the sound of waves crashing against jagged rocks. The wind was cold but clean. I sat on a driftwood log sketching the horizon. The ocean had that strange quality of being both endless and grounding at the same time. I thought about my family, about all the years I'd tried to buy peace with obedience, about how many times I'd let guilt be disguised as love. And I realized something simple. Boundaries weren't walls. They were doors, ones that only opened for the right reasons. That evening, I checked my phone. One unread text from Dad, just 3 words. "We're proud, kid. No long explanations. No demands. Just that." It was enough. When I drove home, the highway stretched endlessly ahead, sun breaking through the last of the gray clouds. My car's radio, finally just mine, played a song I hadn't heard in years, something soft and nostalgic. For once, I didn't think about the bills waiting or the people who might be disappointed in me. I just drove. Windows down, humming along, the salt wind rushing through the car. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was peace. And maybe that was better. A few months later, Mom invited me for dinner. Her message was careful, like a letter from someone who'd learned not to assume. No pressure. Just soup and company. You can say no. I said yes. When I arrived, the house looked the same, but something in the air was different. Fewer decorations, a quietness that felt more honest. Dad smiled from the table. Thinner now, but softer. "Hey, stranger," he said. "Hey, Dad," Mom hugged me, tentatively at first. "You look well." "So do you," I said. Over dinner, we talked about small things. Work, the weather, Jasmine's new marketing job. No guilt, no manipulation, just conversation. At one point, Mom reached across the table, resting her hand on mine. "You were right, Dana. We leaned on you too hard. I don't know how to undo that, but I'm trying." I squeezed her hand gently. "That's enough." We sat in silence after that. The good kind. The kind that doesn't need to fill space. Only hold it. Later that night, driving home, I realized the story wasn't about punishment or revenge. It was about honesty. About seeing love without the fog of obligation. Family doesn't always change the way we want them to. But when we set our boundaries, we give them the chance to see us differently. Maybe even to love us better. When I posted my story online months later, I didn't expect anyone to read it. I just wanted to put it somewhere. To release it. But thousands of people did. They commented, shared, and told their own stories about quiet boundaries and invisible children. It made me realize something. Stories like mine aren't rare. They just don't get told enough. If you're still listening, if you've ever been the one holding everything together while everyone else gets the credit, I want you to hear this. You're not selfish for saying no. You're not cruel for stepping away. You're allowed to build peace, even if others call it distance. Because sometimes family isn't who depends on you the most. It's who respects your peace when you finally stop depending on them. So that's my story. I'm Dana Sullivan, 34, and this was the Christmas that taught me how love should feel. Like freedom, not debt. And if you've ever been there too, you'll understand when I say, some gifts aren't wrapped. They're chosen.